Do you think, like, was the political conservatism sort of that was happening on television reflecting the conservatism of the time that was right across the whole culture? Or was television always a sort of a very easy target for politicians?
Well, I think that there's a lot of cooperation in American broadcasting between conservative regimes and the people who own the broadcast machinery and all the rest of the news machinery, too.
Say a show like Married with Children, what does middle America think of a show like that? You know, is it threatening or is it sort
Threatening to them? No, I think they like it. I think they look at the Bundy character in there and go, yeah, I know a few Bundys myself. But the interesting thing about Bundy-like characters in all sitcoms, the universal rule of all sitcoms is fathers are weak, fathers are bad, mothers are wise. Now, this has been with us since the 50s. And this has sent a very bad psychological message to the entire society. It has made fatherhood almost a criminal activity. And a lot of people would be dissuaded from ever becoming a dad based on the images that are presented to the public from American television shows. And this goes all over the world. And you know what? American dads lived up to the image. They eventually became just as stupid and ineffectual as there's plenty of real Bundys out there. That's the reason why that show resonates. But there are real Bundys out there because there were many predecessors to the Bundy character.
So you think it was very much it's life following art, not art capturing the reality of the American family?
I think that it's a loop. It seems to me that in the United States, the family has been replaced by the squadron. If you look at MTV and the way the dances are set up, young people group together in squadrons. You know, especially the Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation video. It's squadronism. If you live in a place where you happen to be in a socially retarded area and they don't have gangs there yet, well, you know, you've got something that is like a little squad of guys. They have terms like me and my crew. You know, nobody's got a family because who wants to hang out with a dad? Dads are like Bundys. And if the dad does exist, the person who actually caused the child to appear someplace, well, he didn't think it was very much fun, so he left this little creature with the mother, and he went out to do something more interesting, and so therefore the squadron. And MTV is showing us the new family unit. Then again, if you live in a neighborhood where they don't have gangs, your other options are you belong to the football team, which is another kind of a gang, or you belong to some other thing which is not a family.
And do you think this is different than, you know, hasn't always happened with sort of with baseball teams or with social clubs, or just this thing it's coming to a younger age group now? How does the MTV thing focus it? Does it just make it much more tighter pressure on the kids to actually?
I don't think MTV puts pressure on them to abandon the family. I just don't think that there are any families left. I mean, you know, that's obviously an exaggeration, but you know, the family is an endangered species in this country. And the idea of how a family ought to work or a reason for it to even exist, to the point now where the United States government is talking about governmental programs almost to mandate family existence. Is that pathetic or what? And then they talk about family-oriented shows where people would kind of wish there was such a thing as a family, because you can sell a lot of interesting things to a family as a unit. You know, families that are units are interesting, have interesting consumer possibilities. I think there's a nostalgia for families as an institution, but they're rapidly fading away. And what MTV is doing is just portraying the destruction, not causing the destruction. But it's certainly, the way I look at it, I see evidence in the staging of those videos that it's all about wild kids in the street roaming in packs, huddling together for protection against the hostile outside world. That's the subtext of a lot of it.
Where do you see a future then of American television? If you have a cable system where you have 50 cables, maybe one day someone will run another conduit up the road here and you might have 150. Will that make a difference to
No.
you and your neighbours, how people live their lives, do you think? Or is it just more, does more choice necessarily mean better programming?
Not in this country. I mean, more choice means more of the same. Because the minute somebody comes up with something which is successful, the natural instinct of the American is to imitate it and just clone it and beat it to death. Just as the thing I find very ironic in today's political world is that we're always talking in U.S. politics about how the Japanese never really invent anything, they just copy our stuff. Well, we just copy our stuff. We're chasing our tail here. CNN ran a statistic just a little while ago that for this quarter, the industrial growth figure for the industrial base of this country is at 50.1. It's virtually at a standstill. We're like 0.1 over no growth, just standing still. We're not even treading water. We're standing still. And I think that the timidity of the broadcasting and the absence of anything creative coming onto general broadcasting and the desire to feed bland product to an imaginary Mr. Everybody that they've calculated is out there is a sign of the times. It's people behave that way when they're scared to death. And so the only thing that I could say to people in other countries who have the opportunity to import American television shows to enliven their market, you do so at your own peril, because these shows that we watch are one of the reasons why we are the way we are. These shows help to make us the scared, ineffectual, bumbling, coarse society that we are. Now, you may want to watch these things. You know, you might think that Dallas and MTV is something really good to have in your country, but at your own peril.
So you think as the family disintegrating, you're getting these other sort of organisations trying to sort of
Yes,
cash in,
replace the
basically, on that.
family. You have a group of people who would cash in. They are gang leaders, you know, plenty of people to work in the gang and carry the drugs and do the business because somebody wants to belong to that. Then you've got religious opportunists who will feed upon this desperation that's out there in the countryside right now. If you can't have a real family, come to our church and we will provide family type things for you, and at a modest charge, of course. All it takes is all of your money and a piece of your mind, or maybe all of your mind and a piece of your money, but it's going to cost you.
I was in the bank today. There's signs that, welcome from, Christmas greetings from our family to your family.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurants talk about, join the McDonald's family.
Exactly. The family has become a nostalgia word. Tree will be like that one day.
Family tree.
Mm-hmm.
Because America's built on the family. That's the whole, middle America is mum, apple pie, the family, all those sort of values. That's part of the mythology and part of the opposite.
Well, it may exist in middle America. There may be pockets of resistance, but not in this town.
What about sort of the side of American television, which we see also the antiseptic, the Cosby shows, where you have these smiling.
What I want to know is, this show has been rated so highly for eternity, and I don't know anybody who ever watched it. I mean, somebody must have, but I can't imagine that the huge numbers that the advertisers were accepting as reality and therefore paying large dollars to put minutes on that program. I can't really see that those numbers were ever based on reality.
Do you think those sort of shows capture are they sort of like a mythology? Because they have these happy families and Ray Charles comes for dinner and things like that. Do you think that's part of a mythology rather than a reality, is it?
I think that it's part of a maintenance program, a government-approved, not sponsored, but certainly approved status quo maintenance program.
What about, we don't see, but you might know, what the sort of shows that are made but never get onto air? There must be things that have been...
Look at these shelves.
Because this television have to be seen as a thing that goes to everybody. This is the problem with the broadcast medium.
Well, the problem with that concept is that the image of the everybody that they plan for is such a work of fiction. And I can't imagine how they concocted this imaginary everybody. Some very sick people dreamed up this particular everybody because we could work backwards from the programming and deduce what the mentality of this imaginary everybody is like. And he would be one sick bastard. A total basket case, incapable of being a functional member of any society. You just look at the programming and deduce backwards from the images that you see on the air. Who did they plan this for? And what could that denizen be?
So
you ask, how do people in other countries imagine Americans based on our broadcasting? You tell me. What would you think?
So there's no reality there at all.
The reality is invented for you by people who choreograph it. There's got to be an office in Washington someplace where a bunch of people that you never heard of choreograph reality. It's not just what the next photo op is going to be. It's what is the interpretation of a given international event. And this has to be generally dispensed through the media with no questions asked.
Now you've got to tell us about one show. We're going to go and shoot The Young and the Restless.
The soaps are something that I'm not familiar with because they run them during the day and I'm working. So I have on 2 occasions left tapes running so that I could look at it just to see what it was. And it's a pretty strange message. I think that you'll be inspired by what you find.
You think it's
Because the Mr. Everybody that they're dealing with, there is not a Mr. Everybody. It's a Mrs. Everybody or a Ms. Everybody. And the calculations that they've made in the story meetings to put these things together about what these special people are interested in, what are their secret desires, and what will keep their attention long enough that you can sell them stuff. The subtext of all of the soap operas are really pretty disturbing.
Is it sort of Ken and Barbie moving and talking? Is it that sort of...
No, there's a lot of bad sex and betrayal and just turgid flux, I think would be the best way to describe it.